So today, jazz guitarist, educator, and entrepreneur Brent Vaartstra is back to talk about revenue streams and passive income for musicians. How are you today, Brent?
I am super good, David. Thank you for having me on again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. And we had such a great conversation last time. I think it only made sense to cover some of the juicy details of Learn Jazz Standards and even the new podcast that you're getting into, which is totally relevant to this subject of income streams and revenue. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's really what I teach on my podcast, Passive Income Musician, is basically how I make a living off of my jazz education website, learnjazzstandards.com. And I just try to make things easy for people. I try to, spell out, the things that you should be doing to maybe save some of the trouble that I went through, to get to where I'm at in my online music education business. So, but passive income is really how I do it, which, passive income, it has kind of a bad, people have a bad attachment to it, I think, because sometimes you've heard sleazy salesmen say, it's passive income is laying on the beach, drinking Mai Tais, and just while the, money flows into the bank account. And that's not at all what passive income is. And for me, passive income just means, making not trading your time for money anymore. So like a Skype lesson, if I'm teaching a music Skype lesson to somebody, I have to be there for that hour to get the transaction, right? Like I physically have to be there. But something more like an online course or an ebook, basically I've built this asset, I've built this piece of content that has value attached to it. And after I've actually gone through the hard work to do that, all I really need to do is continue to market it. And I don't have to be there for someone to, go through a module of my course. I don't have to actually be present for that in order to receive the money.
I'm glad you covered that up front, but it is something I was going to ask, and I'm sure it's something that's on other people's minds too. And I would just describe passive income as the coolest feeling ever.
It really is the coolest feeling ever. And this sounds like a little bit like almost too sexy to be true, but it's, literally you can make money while you're sleeping. And that's really the reality for me is I literally wake up in the morning and I check my phone and I've got notifications of sales that I've made on eBooks that I've created, on courses, on some other things that I have for my audience. And yeah, that's the reality of it. Or literally being able to go on a vacation and still make some money rather than, having to worry about, well, I can't leave to go on a vacation because then I'll lose the income that I have from my studio of music students, right? But I won't be able to teach them. Well, that's where things, that's the benefit of passive income. That's that best feeling in the world ever that you get is if you put in all that hard work, if you're able to build a business like this, which is not easy, I'll say up front. Yeah. But if you're able to do this, you can have that freedom that provides for you.
I was a guitar teacher for over 10 years, and in 2016, I let go of a lot of my outside commitments to work completely from home, which was an incredible feeling. But I really wish I had some of this stuff figured out when I was still in the midst of teaching guitar. And the reality is, some teachers love it and some teachers find it draining. And unfortunately, I was on the side of feeling it really was draining me. And it was very hard to, be teaching 30, 40, 50 students a week and engage in a whole lot of other things. Even though I did, I still recorded here and there and I still blogged here and there. It was just never enough to amount to like a business. But I think if you love teaching or you're able to keep that student load sort of reasonable, you could definitely have enough time and energy to still build this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, some people love to teach, other people don't. And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with teaching private lessons. And I think that every musician, every student who wants to learn how to play music of any sort should take private one-on-one lessons. And so there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not what I teach. I teach passive income because again, of that freedom it can give you. And even for those listening who maybe you teach students, private lessons, or you do something similar in the music world, you can also do stuff like this to make a side income as well, right? I mean, you can supplement your income, maybe a side hustle in order to supplement what you're doing right there. And maybe even relieve if you have way too many students, you're overpacked, you're stressed, something like this could be something to work towards and, build that side supplemental income.
What's interesting is I actually love teaching and coaching, but I think it was just something about having to pay attention to one person and meticulously go through how their fingers should be positioned and all that. That was starting to like, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
It just
yeah.
sucked the life out of me. So
Yeah. The teaching. There's some people that are really great at teaching kids, and I have a friend like that. I never was very good at that. And then there's also like this thing with teaching adults, like because I taught both in my career, and adults are, I guess they're a little bit more. They complain a little bit more about, oh, like if they're just starting out, like I can't do this. It's like, well, you can do it. It's just that you're telling yourself you can't do it, or even I used to teach some adults that would even like question me. Are you sure this is the right thing that you should be doing? And I'd be like, I'm a professional. I'm absolutely positive of it. So you don't get that with kids, but then again, you don't get like a kid, screaming and running around the classroom, swinging their guitar over their head either. So, true story, but that's private lessons.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've experienced all that. I've been stabbed with a pen before.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And I've had a chance to listen to your podcast, Passive Income Musician. I've listened to a few episodes, and of course, it's still new. And one of the things I think it nails home is that as a musician, really, internet marketing is a key component to setting yourself up for long-term success. And yet, unless they're already tech savvy, many musicians leave school without knowing the first thing about how to establish an online presence. And that's one of the reasons I do what I do. But isn't it funny that schools tend to leave such a huge gap in the lives of musicians?
Yeah, it's not even about that. It's really, for me, when I was going to college for music, it was interesting because I felt like my experience, just to sum it up, was, hey, here's how to play music, and now good luck. Where really, if you think about college is supposed to set you up for making a career out of something, right? Like, so for me personally, I didn't really ever get information about even, how to go out there and how I'm going to make a living as a musician. How am I going to market myself? I didn't even learn any business skills at all. I feel like if I were to start a college program, 50% of it would be business and marketing, because I think that's what musicians really need.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the part that tends to go missing in a musician's career. Like, yeah, once you're done school or you're done learning how to play your instrument or composition or theory or sight reading or whatever, now it's like you're on your own. You figure out the rest.
Yeah, it's like, now what do I do? I know that always confounded me, but I mean, I guess I figured out for myself, and it's always interesting to look at other musicians and how they figured out their own pathways, and how some haven't, and they failed, and they now do something completely different.
Yeah, totally agree. Another thing I love about your podcast is the fact that you focus on what I would consider to be one of the most difficult markets, which is beginners. I tend to work with people whose, figurative car is already in motion, because as a coach, you can't steer a parked car. But I have no doubt that if people use the information you provide as a foundation, that they would absolutely create more income streams for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really... beginners are really a passion of mine, because for me this was such a life-changing thing, in order to go from struggling, just barely paying the bills off of gigs and teaching students, to building this asset, learn jazz standards, and making a full-time living off it. That's such a life-changing, freeing thing. So when I look at other musicians that maybe, so even some friends of mine who have inspired me to do things like this, because, they're interested, they want to know, well, how do you actually do this? Like, and when I start explaining it to them, some of this stuff is like, it seems like they've never heard of it before, and so I really do have a passion for helping those who are, either right at the beginning or even just in the middle of their journey, just so they can get started.
So everyone listening, why don't we define passive income, and does it really exist?
Yeah. Passive income, like a little bit of what I was saying before, is income that you're no longer trading your time for money on. You do have to put work into it. Passive income isn't just free. You have to market it. You have to take action in order to make it. But you also don't have to be present to make that money at all times. You don't have to. We used the example earlier of doing a Skype lesson, or a private lesson. You have to be there for that. And there's different varying levels of income and how passive they actually are, which I'll definitely be talking about soon, like the different kind of income streams that I think that are available for musicians.
Absolutely. I mean, that's connected to my next question. And I often hear musicians lament that it's so hard to make money in music today. And yet there are some more income streams you can tap into than ever before. It's just that musicians seem to be stuck on live performance and albums and live performance and recorded music and live performance and recorded music. So,
right.
I mean, this is basically the best we've ever had it. So what types of revenue streams are there?
Yeah, let me go over what I would consider the most. These aren't the only ones, but these are what I would say are the main ones that are available to musicians, specifically music teachers and those who want to teach music online. But you could also apply a lot of these to any other revenue stream or any other form of making a living as a musician. So let me just go through them. And the list that I'm going to give, it kind of starts from the most passive, but the least return. And then we're going to move up from there. So the first one that I would say is advertisement. So if you have a blog and you are building an audience, you're getting traffic, you can start to monetize that with advertisement. And the basic starting point that a lot of people go through is Google Ads. Mm-hmm. So you can sign up for Google AdSense and start having Google populate ads on your blog or your website. Now, this is a way to get started, and this is certainly how I got started on my blog, but there's really a low payout, and it really requires a lot of traffic in order to receive money. But it is a starting point that you can do. And then something that later on I did with my blog is I did private advertisements. So essentially I was building this audience, and then I started just asking people who had something related to my niche, whether it was an ebook or a product or something like that that had to do with jazz in my case, and started asking them, hey, would you be interested in advertising on my website? So private advertisement is another thing you can do as well, which, that's usually something that you agree upon a monthly price or a one-time placement. And that could be reoccurring or it could be one time. So advertisement is a good starting point that a lot of people can use. Ultimately, I don't have any ads on my blog anymore. I don't do them because it distracts from my other revenue sources, which I'll talk about in a second. And then along those lines as well, the next kind of revenue stream that I would say is sponsored content. So that's similar to advertisement, but usually it insinuates an ongoing relationship. So podcasters do this all the time. They'll have their podcast episodes sponsored by Audible or by some other business who is looking at stats that show how many views on your YouTube video do you have, how many listens and downloads do you have on your podcast, and they're sponsoring that content usually on an ongoing basis. And again, that's usually a price that is determined. Sometimes I know from YouTubers that sometimes they'll create deals where you'll get paid a certain amount just to be sponsoring a video. But then if it hits over 15,000 views, you'll get paid X amount more every single time you reach that interval. So sponsored content is another one. And another revenue stream is affiliate income. So affiliate income is essentially you are selling someone else's products, not your own products, for a commission. And this is another really common one. This is definitely a great passive income source if you don't have your own stuff. So the most baseline common affiliate program out there is Amazon. So you can become an affiliate partner with Amazon and essentially sell their products through different links that link to Amazon. And I believe it's 24-hour cookie tracking. So anything that customer who went through your link, those purchases will be attributed to you and you'll get a certain commission of those. Now, like with Google advertising, it's easy, but there's a low payout, and that's similar to with Amazon. It's easy to do it, but there's a lower payout for that. So I would consider those, Amazon is sort of like the Google ads of advertising. So easy, but not a big payout there. But you can also, do other products. There's lots of other products out there that do affiliate programs. One that I think of off the top of my head that has to do with musicians is Transcribe. It's a slowdowner software, and they have an affiliate program that I think you make a 30% commission or something to that effect every single time you sell that product. So that's affiliate. And, that's really something that you should do. If you actually use a product, that's a good opportunity to say, hey, I use this product, I get benefit out of it, I can sell this to my audience, right? But again, you have to have an audience to do any of this stuff, and you have to be building your audience in order for people to actually end up buying them and have people to actually market to. Are you tracking with me so far, David?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. So moving on to the next revenue source, which is really where I make the bulk of my income, and that is eBooks and online courses. So if you are an expert in your musical niche, in my case, it's jazz, you can make eBooks about that, whatever topic that might be of interest to your audience. So for me, I have a book that I came out with this year, for example, called the Jazz Standards Playbook. A lot of people that come to my website, they're interested in learning how to play jazz repertoire, how they can start improvising as a jazz musician. So this book is made especially for those who are interested in that. And so I made an ebook. It sold really well. I've also created a companion course for that ebook for those who want to upgrade their experience, who want to, have extra resources, who want to have a community. And so that's where online courses comes in. I also have another course called 30 Steps to Better Jazz Playing, which is my flagship jazz practicing course. And it's a similar idea, a little bit of a higher ticket item there. But that's ebooks and e-courses. And this is the one that I always suggest, especially for those who are teaching music, because once you establish your authority and once you build your audience, you serve them up with a lot of free content, they start to know, like, and trust you. And so they're going to be so much more likely to buy your products that you're actually teaching them and, upgrading their experience through these kinds of products. So ebooks and courses is one. And the last one that I really want to touch on is membership sites. And membership sites are essentially recurring monthly revenue. You have a fee that you charge. Maybe it's $35 a month. And usually this comes in the shape of an ongoing course where you have a library of content and you add more content every single month to keep your subscribers to reduce churn rate. So that's kind of the basic membership model. But of course, there's many different ways that you can shape your membership model site. That's not one that I spend a lot of time on, but I have a lot of friends that do. And that's a really common one for musicians to use, is membership sites. And then outside of that, like just a bonus one would be, licensing your music. That's not really something I am a pro at or have expertise in, but there are a lot of other options out there. These are just the main ones that I would consider great passive income revenue streams for musicians.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really great overview. I think if you missed any of that, go back a few minutes and listen to that whole thing again.
Yeah, that was a lot of talking, but take notes, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you got an entire business plan handed to you on a plate. Those are the ones to pursue. And I think you alluded to the fact that they'll pay out at different levels generally, because the most profitable for you have been ebooks and e-courses, but something like advertising or affiliate marketing, a little bit of, trickle of income comes in here and there, but it's definitely not a lot when you're first getting started. I mean, some of these guys online are making a lot of money because they put up their income reports every month telling us how they're making their money. But yeah, I think one of those is going to work better than all the others for you in all likelihood.
Yeah, and that's where strategy comes in. So like I had mentioned, is I used to have ads on my website. I don't anymore because, I want to focus on drawing people's attention to my ebooks and my courses. So even on my podcast, I know that I could do get sponsors for my podcast. I choose not to because I prefer just to focus on promoting my ebooks and my courses. And that's a strategy, and there's many other strategies. There's some people that literally make their entire living off of Amazon Associates program and making money off of that affiliate program. And that's a strategy, right? So there's all kinds of, these are just the options that we have for us, how to actually implement these, how to combine revenue sources, how to pick which ones are best for you and your audience. That's an entire different discussion altogether.
Absolutely. But the advertising sort of brought me back because it reminded me of the days when I think early days of blogging in 2007 or so, putting those advertisements on my website, thinking probably like a lot of other people, if I put Google ads on my website, Google will rank my website higher. So therefore, I'll get more traffic and therefore I'll make more money and stuff like that. It definitely Definitely brought me back to those days.
Oh yeah. For those who've been doing this sort of thing for a while, I think most of us have been there before with the Google Ads program. And some people choose to keep them, some people like me, and it sounds like you too, like choose not to. So
Yeah, exactly. I've experimented with them here and there again since using them way back when, but it's definitely not a crucial part of my strategy anymore. One thing I did do recently was I just launched my membership site called The Headquarters.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Yes.
without knowing exactly how that's all going to pan out or work out. But I know a few people in my audience have already expressed interest in that. So I felt like that's something I've been wanting to do for quite a while, but also to cater to the people who say, and I find that people come to me with a lot of different questions. It's not just the same question over and over. They always have something personalized that they're working on. So those people, I think, could benefit from that personalized coaching.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so just out of my own curiosity, what does your membership program look like?
Right now, it's basically a Slack group, so a private Slack group people can join, and I've set up a few different channels so people can come and introduce themselves and then have their questions answered, and they can also send me direct messages to have those questions personally answered as well. And I also will have monthly live training calls, and so the members will have access to all the archive of the training calls.
Oh, awesome. That sounds like a great program for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm excited about it. It's definitely something I've been wanting to do for quite a while.
Yeah. The memberships, like I said, I do have a lot of friends that do memberships, and there's definitely a big value. And typically with memberships, and this is for everybody listening, typically with membership sites, the real plus of membership sites is that you're able to sort of expect a certain amount of money each month, where sometimes if you're just selling individual products, it can be hard to always anticipate how much you're going to sell month to month. So sometimes membership sites can offer a little bit more stability as far as income goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of recurring revenue when and where possible. I'm definitely curious to know how that you're able to get repeated sales on your e-courses and ebooks. What is your strategy there?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is just content marketing, which is a lot of what I teach at Passive Income Musician is just, every single piece of content I come out with, it's for a purpose, right? I don't just come out with a blog post because. I don't just come out with a podcast episode because. I have my 3 or so topics that I really try to hone in on my website. And so all of the content I make is revolving around those topics, and there's always a product that's associated with those topics, right? So a lot of it's content strategy. If I make a YouTube video, I'm always going to be mentioning a lead magnet. And for those who don't know what a lead magnet is, it's just like a little freebie you can give away people in exchange for their email address. And so I'll always have like a free lead magnet, or sometimes even a direct call to action to one of my products. So it's a lot of just content marketing and a lot of email marketing as well, for sure. Of course, it does also require that I'm continually creating more products, but the same as you would in a membership site, right? You're continuing to add value to that membership site every single month in order to reduce churn rate. It's the same idea with coming out with, just individual one-time products, right? So you're still having to create more ebooks or e-courses in my particular case in order to do that,
Yeah. The way it works is like basically every live training call I do would be a minimum viable product. That could be fleshed out into something more once I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Now, another question that I'm sure people are asking to get back to the topic at hand is like, how important is it to have multiple streams of income?
I think it's really important. And if you look at most successful entrepreneurs, they usually have multiple streams of income. So while the main source of income that I have is e-courses and ebooks, I do also make some Google ad revenue from my YouTube channel. So I don't have ads on my website, but since Google owns YouTube, I have monetized all of my videos. So I do make a little bit of income there. It's not a lot of income, but it's income that supplements everything else, right? And the other thing that I do is I actually sell a piece of software. It's actually not an affiliate program, but I'm a dealer for the software company, and I sell software that has to do with my niche And so that's a product that I'm not creating, but I've created some upsells to their product. And so that's a source of revenue that I have that doesn't require me actually creating a product. So it's definitely important to have multiple revenue sources. And like I said, if we go back to that list of passive income ideas that I just gave everybody, you can look through those and really start to figure out, well, which ones are going to work for you. And the two questions that I always say to ask when thinking about, which passive income revenue sources are right for you is to first ask, what are your strengths? What are your strengths that you have to offer? Like, for example, if you're not very good at talking, then maybe you shouldn't be doing an online course, right? Maybe you should consider an ebook. Like maybe you're not really good at that, or maybe you're not very good on video, or, at least you need to work up to that level first. There's all sorts of different considerations. So what are your strengths? And then most importantly is, who is your audience and what are their pain points? That's the second question. Who is your audience? What are their pain points? And really, when we were talking about my strategy, it all comes down to, I know who my audience is and I know what they're struggling with. Therefore, I know that whenever I come out with a product, I know it's going to sell. Like I don't have to question in my head, is it going to sell? Are people going to want it? I know who they are and I know what their pain points are. And I'm constantly learning more about them, right? And I'm constantly listening. I'm constantly asking them, what are you struggling with as a jazz musician? How can I help you? How can I do better? And then I'm watching all my free content that I come out with. How is that performing? This one didn't perform as well. This one performed really well. And there's a trend there. So I'm always looking at those things. And then when you start looking at that, you can start saying, oh, really what my audience needs is they need this piece of software. They're really struggling with this particular, this particular thing. And this software can really help them. This is a great product to serve them, right? So therefore, I've already started building this idea of what kind of affiliate programs I should do, what kind of should I do ads, what should I do courses, what stream should I use? Maybe it should be a membership website, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it should be something like that where there's more of a community built in. It's all these things that need to be considered when trying to figure out, which ones work for you and which ones will work best.
Are there any specific methods you rely on to find out more about your audience?
Yeah. So like I said, a few is just looking at my content and seeing what performs best. It's paying attention to every email I get and just seeing and picking up trends that I have. I have a free Facebook community, and I always ask them questions before they can get into the Facebook group. And the questions are shaped very specifically to try to get to know them better, to try to see, are you a beginner, an intermediate player? Are you advanced? What are your biggest struggles? How do you think I can help you? And I ask those questions every single time so that I can constantly be looking and pick up trends. A lot of people have a problem with this. A lot of people need this. I also do surveys to my email list. Building a mailing list, by the way, probably one of the most important things you can do for anyone who's trying to do online entrepreneurship as a musician. And I'm sending out surveys to them, asking them specific questions that I'm going to get desired answers from, right? So I'm trying to learn about them constantly. So those are a few ways that I do it.
Now, I don't think a six-figure business is something that happens by accident, and you've shared a little bit about the journey and how long it took to get there and the stumbling blocks that were there for you. But how did you build Learn Jazz Standards to six figures? Was there a specific plan for that?
There wasn't a plan, and but what I will say is I really started thinking about this a lot. I was doing a lot of stuff and trying everything under the sun, right? Because I read it in some book. I've heard it in some podcast. So I was just trying everything. And to a certain degree, you need to do that. You need to experiment, try different things with your marketing, try different products that you're not sure will work or not. But at the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to do what is actually working, And for me, that was eBooks and courses. Like that was what was working for me. And certain content I was creating, that was what was working for me. I noticed that people really connected with my podcast when I came out with my podcast. People would email me and say that they actually felt like they knew who I was because they were taking me on their walks and they were, taking me to the gym with them, So I started paying attention to those things. And I think that just kind of naturally happened. I don't think I had a plan. And again, I may have said this either in the last episode or in this episode. I was mentioning that, money is important and money is great. The main thing that I look for is freedom. And that's really what a business like this can give me. And so my goal was never, I want to be a six-figure business. It was really just, what's working and what's not working, and whatever's working, let's do more of that. And I think that just kind of naturally resulted in some of the financial success that I've seen.
Yeah, I love that because I had a gut feeling that a book would be one of the number one performing products on my website. And when I did finally launch that book, I was proven right.
Yeah.
So I know that people are hungry for books, and actually it's one of the ways people even discover my website is because of like book reviews and top book lists and things like that. So, I like your point about doubling down on what's working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really great point that you made. Like for you found that that's something that resonates with people, and it clearly too, because like you come out with a few of them, clearly it's something that you're good at doing. You know what I mean? You have a passion for doing, which goes back to my two questions, right? What are your strengths, and then who's your audience, and what are their pain points? So if the focus is always on that, I think you're bound to have some sort of success. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're bound, as long as you like have that motivation, that drive, as long as that you have your eyes on the goal that's like way ahead, you're thinking for the long term. I think you have no choice but to be somewhat successful at whatever you're doing and creating that income as a musician. I mean, it's possible. It's possible for everyone. And I really believe that. That's why I teach what I teach.
That's great. And yeah, there's no question that I love writing, so I don't mind pumping out more books.
Awesome.
One other thing that I'm curious about, and maybe you can shed some light on, you've got 27,000 fans on Facebook, 4,000 followers on Instagram, 92,000 subscribers on YouTube. How does one go about building a social media following like that?
Well, David, you just, I was trying to think of some like smart aleck remark or like, answer. I couldn't think of one. We were just talking about like a Neil Patel post, like before we started recording, that was like along these lines, and we were laughing about it. Anyways, I won't do that on the podcast. Let's see. How did I build this social media following? That is a great question. Let's try to dissect them one by one. First of all, I'll cross off Instagram for you because that's not even something that my Instagram game is even happening. I should get into it, but it was really something that I did like, posting like 5 times a day for a while. And then eventually I burnt out on it and, I couldn't keep up with it and I just stopped doing it and chose not to continue doing it. So I can't really speak much on Instagram. Facebook, Facebook, I have to be honest, like a lot of that success is probably when Facebook really favored organic reach a lot more than it does now. Right now, Facebook, especially this year, they started really cracking down more on organic reach, and it's more focused on paid advertisements. So it's harder to reach people. So it was probably a lot easier for me back then when I started that Facebook page to really get more followers, right? But one way to always do it is, of course, ask your audience, whether you're asking for a subscribe on your YouTube channel, whether you're asking for a rating and review on iTunes, whatever it is, or liking you on Facebook, you have to actually ask them. So in your content, don't ever underestimate the power of just asking. The other day I had someone email me and, say, hey, I really love Passive Income Musician podcast. This is a really great show. Thank you so much for this. I said, oh, awesome. Thank you, man. Hey, would you mind leaving a rating and review? I'm trying to get that ball rolling. Sure enough, rating and review popped right up. But I don't think he would have done it if I didn't ask him, right? So it's just the power of ask. That's just like a simple kind of cheap tip, I suppose. Now, my YouTube channel, really a lot of that success I have to attribute to just putting up free backing tracks. I made backing tracks with some software, and it was just supposed to be an added resource to helping people learn jazz standards. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal, but apparently it worked really well, and it really scaled my YouTube channel. So we eventually came out with 200 or 226 of them or so. And that really was kind of something that boosted it up. And now I do weekly video lessons, jazz tips, and advice. And for YouTube, it's consistency. It's all about consistency. And really for all content that you create, whether you're creating blog posts, whether you're creating podcast episodes, whether you're creating videos, it's all about being consistent. Not only will the different channels that take notice of that, and Google will take notice of that, but also your audience will. They're going to notice that, hey, you're there for them. They're showing up all the time. So if you're doing that on YouTube and every single week you're serving your audience, people are going to notice that, and word's going to spread, and more people are going to start visiting it, and more people are going to start liking it and commenting on it. And each one of these these social medias and content platforms. I mean, we could talk like whole episodes on this stuff, and
Yes.
some of it is proven strategy, others of it is just theory. And and that's why I always say, make sure that you have a website, make sure you have a home base, because you don't own YouTube, you don't own your Facebook page, right? Because like Facebook, they just killed organic reach, especially this year, right?
Yes.
So if you're really putting all of your eggs in that basket of Facebook, well, now your organic reach isn't really going to work. I've even been told that people like lost their businesses because of that, because they put way too much on Facebook performing for them, but then Facebook changed the rules. So I know that didn't quite answer the question very well, David, but that was my attempt there.
No, that's great. That's hugely important. And we could say, if you were to joke, how did you build passive income musician? Oh, you already had a big social media following.
Right.
Learn jazz
yeah. Well,
standards.
there is some truth. There is some truth to that, right? There is some truth to having another platform to try to boost that up right away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your generosity. You've offered a lot of great information. Is there anything else I should have asked?
Oh, no, not at all. I think there's, I feel like we could talk for hours more, but I don't want to, subject anyone to that kind of torture. So I won't do it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks for your time, Brent.
Thanks so much, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.